I'm Max Clark. I'm going to rant about lawyers, arbitration, and lawsuits. If you are a business and you get into a contractual dispute with another business, what ends up happening? You end up in a lawsuit with each other. If you have not been through litigation ever in your lifetime, I am very happy for you and try to keep that way for the rest of your life. If you are a business, it is a matter of time before you're in litigation of some sort. It is just bound to happen. I work for .com. I remember I was standing in the general counsel's office. We were working on PCI compliance and an audit that was going through. And while we were there, the general counsel was served with a lawsuit, and she took it and she signed it. And I asked her what was that? And she's like, oh, we're being sued. And it was like so shocking to me. It was like the first time I'd ever seen it happen. I was like, what? It just happened. And she's just like, hey, look, you're not a real business until you're being sued or you're in litigation. It is very true. And of course, with size becomes more litigation. And when you get to like the real size, then you start just like figuring out how to like mess with your competitors by like antitrust litigation and like figuring out what can stick and what you can throw at the wall. Anyways, going back around in the United States, and the legal system here, when you get into litigation, when you sue somebody or you are sued, you go through lots of phases. And the beginning phases are like lawyers sending nasty letters back and forth and demands and all this crazy stuff. And then you move forward from that. And then you get to, at some point, you're going to get into discovery, where people are demanding documents from either side in order to go through and try to find evidence of your wrongdoing and that you're an evil, terrible, terrible, terrible company and people. And then after discovery, you usually have just depositions. I mean, they can be happening currently, or, the order can flip, and then you have depositions. And maybe, and somewhere along that, maybe you have court-ordered mediation, where the court's trying to get you guys to get together and talk to each other and like work this thing out before actually getting into the courtroom and actually going through trial. And then you have trial, right? And you get the whole like, unfortunately it's not Harvey Specter, right? But like you get this whole thing where, you're actually in court and something happens. And then, by the way, you can get all the way to that point and you can get a trial and you can have a trial and you can win, and you still haven't really won yet, because at that point, the other side can still appeal. Now there's more technicalities that have to happen. They have to like, post the bond on whatever the judgment is before they can appeal, and then appeal. You can be in litigation for like on one issue can be like bajillion years. Like there is no start and end date on some of these things. It's actually it's exhausting also mentally. It's expensive and it's exhausting. Now, I've had the misfortune of being involved in a couple of litigation actions where, we've had to take action against former customers in the past, so this is past life issue stuff. And I will tell you that it is expensive. It was expensive and distracting and time consuming for us. And it was expensive and time consuming and distracting for them. And by the time you get into like, you're walking into like, you're starting to issue discovery demands and you're starting to, figure out depositions, it's like, as a rule of thumb, you're probably like 50K into it at this point without even like blinking an eye. Like this isn't like even really serious. Like it costs you $50,000 in legal fees just to get to that point. Like you've spent $50,000. And this is why arbitration becomes so popular in business contracts, because arbitration basically gives you a way to not deal with the court system and avoid a lot of this nonsense that you deal with. Now, what I find really funny when I talk to lawyers about arbitration is usually the first comment that comes out is like, oh, but arbitration is really expensive, so you don't want to do it. Now, look, if you're in a situation where you are being sued constantly by a bajillion different entities, arbitration is not probably ideal for you because, more than likely you're probably footing the cost for arbitration. But this comment around arbitration being really expensive comes from a place of typical arbitration costs. And, if you've got a good, strong arbitration language in your agreement that you walk into it, you're probably going to spend, like $8,000 or $10,000 in arbitration per matter. And yeah, that's expensive. It is expensive writing a thing for $10,000. Now, what's funny about this to my conversation, it just like goes back again, previous life, past history, previous companies, right? But like, let me think here, $50,000 and like 6 to 9 months of like time versus $10,000 and like the thing is done in a month for, an arbitration. Now, I don't know what I don't know. So I'm sure that there's lots of, if you can give me examples of like what I do not know about with an arbitration where this becomes like a horrible, scary thing, please tell me what they are. Send me a message, call me, comment on this video, whatever you found it, and tell me what I'm wrong about with arbitration, because I would love to know, because I can't figure it out. It is cheap to file a lawsuit. It costs a couple $100 in filing fees to go down to the courthouse and file a lawsuit. So yeah, it is cheap to file a lawsuit, but everything after that point is expensive. There is a business strategy of filing a lawsuit to try to motivate the other party to remedy whatever issue is out there and get that taken care of. But the reality is a lot of times once you file that lawsuit, you're not done. It's not like, oh, the other side's gonna get this lawsuit and go, oh my God, I'm being sued. Like, quick, let me settle and give you all the money you want. It's gonna get into the next phase of this thing. And as soon as you get into that next phase, it just gets expensive. So anyways, I don't understand why people, what am I missing here? Like, why is arbitration bad? I'll just leave it at that. I'm Max Clark. Let me know. Tell me, why is arbitration bad? And what am I missing?